for attending. Tonight is tonight's Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. Today is Wednesday, December 3rd. It's just about 6 p.m. There are 3 different projects being discussed tonight at the meeting. The first meeting on the agenda tonight is Project UV 2025 number 5. If the applicant could come up. Perfect, thank you. Okay, yeah, you can just kind of walk us through, the application, the proposal, and mainly kind of walk us through the criteria. I don't know if you prepared the PowerPoint.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
So you can just walk us through that.
I did all the stuff. So
okay, perfect.
It's currently someone does a guest house / Airbnb, 12 bedroom, 13 bathroom. It's been vacant for 5 years as far as I know, and lived in by squatters and stuff. So we're proposing to turn it into a 7-unit apartment building. It has 8 parking spaces, but one of those would be for trash. We'd be putting a couple of EV chargers. The plans are there. We just upgraded the power to 3-phase. We're upgrading the water right now. And I've done a few of these in Troy. And just around the corner on Spring Street, we're just wrapping up one where we took a 2-family double lot and made it a 1-family single lot. So I'm taking units away from the neighborhood as well, I guess. So I'm the owner and the GC. So if there's any questions.
Do you mind just walking through the criteria for as part of the presentation? Kind of, I guess. So this is, or I'll let you talk a little bit, that this is a modification of a...
Yeah, it's a modification. It's a historic building, and we want to keep as much of the character inside. We've had Centre Square through and Albany Historic through, and we've had hosted an event there. Just to show examples of what we've done. I love historic buildings, and when I did the event, I showed everybody what we've done in other buildings. But also we have to make it functional, so that's the trade-off. Functional financially is what I mean. But I'm not interested in building micro apartments or anything like that because there's loads of those developments going up right now, and it's just not my space. So if you want me to talk towards the type of units or I'm not sure. I haven't done this before with you guys, so I don't know where you want me to go with it. But I spend too much money on these, for sure. That's what my accountant tells me. But I believe in building a good product. And I have lots of examples. It's not my first time. There are places I would live in with my kids, so they have central air, they have laundry, all that stuff. We take the gas out every time. All our company drives EVs, so it's something we believe in. And what's keeping the character, it's a challenge, but we figured it out, so it's got a grand staircase. It's a beautiful building, so it's that trade-off. And it's gonna be a lot of money, but I figured that bit out as well. That's my take. So.
Okay. Can you walk us through a little bit on so there's 3 floors, 4 floors?
There's 3.5. I'd say 3 floors and a garden level basement with full windows and stuff like that. So I can't. So there's 3 floors. So we'll call it 3.5 floors. So it'll be 2 apartments on each of the upper floors and then 1 apartment at the lower level. Once again, I call it garden because it's got windows and it's got access and stuff like that. And then a storage space in the back, and a bathroom for my workers.
7 apartments, right?
7 apartments, yeah.
Okay. So you said 2, the 2 top floors?
2 in the top, 2 in the third, 2 in the second, 2 in the first, and 1 in the basement.
Garden.
Yeah,
okay.
The garden.
Okay, 6, 7. Okay.
Yeah. And it's already fully sprinkled, but we just have to. The building's being unclimatized, so we have to redo it. So that's why we're bringing in new water. And so we already upgraded the power.
So the building is being unwood? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
It was left vacant and without climate control for 4 or 5 years, so there's definitely been bust pipes and stuff like that. And so we always go from the street in every time. New power, new sewer, new water, new everything. So I'm not going back later when there's a tenant and it's like making their life hell, so it'll be a new roof. We'll restore the windows. The windows are actually in pretty good condition. The historic windows are in really good condition.
Do you want to say a little bit about how this reduces the intensity of the current variance?
Yeah, so the current variance is a 12-bedroom hotel. So that means you've got, I'm assuming in this market it would be Airbnbers. I know a few of those Airbnbers in Albany, so you'd have a transient population. And it's profitable, that's why people do it, but you've got different people coming in and coming out. I build nice apartments where people stay. So maybe you're increasing the density, but I also have parking, so you're not increasing. No one's going to be looking for permits. 1 car per place. They may well be. I can't say that's not. Strike that. I have no idea. There is plenty of square footage in the building, so there's no density in the building. I know that's not what you're saying, but adding 7 apartments to that neighborhood of a higher quality with off-street parking, I don't see an effect personally, but I would say that I have a vested interest in saying that. I've talked to neighbors and so on and so forth. They're all pretty excited about it. So,
what about how this new proposed 7-unit kind of fits into the character of the neighborhood? That's kind of in line with what
Yeah, the buildings along that street are all apartments. So that's the way they are. When this house was built in 1890, it was a single-family residence. But there's not. I know there's on Chestnut now. There's a lot of single-family residences, but on State Street, all along it, it's all multifamilies. I don't know if they're legal multifamilies or whatever. That's not for me to know. But it is all chopped-up buildings. This, as I said, this was a hotel up until 2019 or something like that. So there was a density there. I personally don't think that fits in the neighborhood at all. But the idea of adding, I've done this in Troy, the idea of adding a higher quality units, especially by the standard of the neighborhood, and getting more foot traffic in the neighborhood as a result is just, I think it's a win for everybody. So more more people going to local businesses, that kind of stuff. And I've done this in Troy several times, and it does work, so for the neighborhood. And you're taking an abandoned building off the table, I guess, or whatever,
Are there questions from the board?
Have you already begun any of the work to?
No, we have a demo permit. We haven't started yet. We're finishing up the building on Spring Street. So, we got the permit a couple of weeks ago. But we did pull a permit and apply the electricity because we want to make sure we have heat in the building for the winter, regardless if we start work or not. It's just these buildings, if you don't put heat in them, shit goes wrong.
I live in a home also built in 1898.
Oh, so yeah, we're doing.
Have you spoken to the neighborhood association? And
Yeah.
I know your immediate neighbor is the church.
Yes.
And your surrounding neighbors.
It's a landlord on the other side. Sorry, his name escapes me. It's a Greek name. He used to own the building originally. His family did. I've talked to Centre Square, and I'm fairly active in historic. And whenever I talk to people all the time. I'm Irish. I can't stop talking. So. And I go to Dublin Deer a lot, not because I like to drink, but because I think it's important to the community, So, yeah.
Thank you. My remaining questions are actually for staff. I want to get a little bit of clarity because, as far as I can tell, and maybe I'm wrong, this zoning district is already a permitted use. Is this not currently permitted use in that district?
I don't think so.
Correct, yeah, so it's zoned as RT, which does not, it would allow 1, 2, and 3 unit townhomes, but it does not allow for
Multifamily units.
multifamily. There are certain exceptions, however, this building does not qualify for those exceptions.
What are?
Those exceptions would be if it was originally designed as a multi-unit or non-residential building, which in this case it wasn't.
So
If that was the
grandfathered in,
case, yeah, if that was the case, it would be eligible for a conditional use permit, but that's not the case here.
Okay, and this, I know the original variance is 30+ years old, but,
Right, 1981 or something, yeah.
so the original variance was, what kind of variance, I wanna understand procedurally what we are being asked to do. So what was the variance granted in 1991, to the extent that we have that information?
Yeah, so it's a use variance, and specifically, it notes for bed and breakfasts with, I believe it's 12 guest rooms and the 2 full dwelling units that you see there.
Mhm.
But at the time, in 1991, in the code, there's no specific use defined or listed in the table as a bed and breakfast. So essentially,
So it's giving some sort of like conditional commercial use.
yeah, it's basically saying this semi-residential commercial use is allowed, and then it provided certain conditions. Part of those were basically it had to come back. The use variance was conditional, pending that they come back to the Board of Zoning Appeals 3 straight years and show that it's not been a hindrance to the neighborhood, which they did, and then the BZA at the 3rd meeting issued it as a non-temporary permanent use variance. So in this case, what applicant is requesting is a modification of that use variance, so it's not a new use variance with the same use variance criteria. Essentially, it's really just like the reasonableness standard.
And then, just because I'm personally familiar working down the street from this location, that there are a lot of, whether legal or not, multi-family units around. Do we have any information on whether or not those are grandfathered in before the changes to the code? Or if those have been granted variances since?
Yeah, can you go to the things on one of the steps slides with the number of, it's got a map next to it. So this is just an example. These are the ones on that same street. The property in green is the subject property. These are all multi-unit dwellings that are highlighted on the map. There's at least 14 of them.
Is that the
Also
corner
within the
of Dove?
same, yes, that's Dove and State.
Okay.
Those are all also in the same zoning district. The zoning district changes a little bit to the right. Yeah, as far as we can tell, there's no new use variances. They're either legally non-conforming or grandfathered, or they had qualified as originally being constructed for the multi-unit or non-residential purpose.
So, when I saw this list, I was confused by the multi-unit dwelling, the 2 and 3 unit. Now I understand it's because the 2 and 3 unit townhouses piece is an allowed use in this district. Is there a difference between the multi-unit dwelling and the converted residential apartments?
It's just the converted residential apartment, that's part of like a property tax code. It's a little bit hard to know like the exact details of them. From what I could tell, 2 of those 3 have 3 units and 1 of them has 4. So you could consider it a multi-unit dwelling also, but typically it means that there's some other office space or something that's non-residential associated with it. It's a little hard for us to know exactly though.
Oh, thank you. That's helpful.
Thanks.
So I just made notes, I guess, maybe the total beds and total baths, and what I'm proposing is 15 beds, 9 bathrooms, because some of them have 2 bathrooms. 7 parking spots, the drawing essentially only shows 6, 2 EV charging, and if you were in the neighborhood, you could just walk around the Spring Street, you can see EV charging. We're very consistent with that. If it was a 12 bed, then it would be 12 bedrooms, 12 bathrooms. So, I know it's 3 bedrooms less, but I feel like the density is more because of the transients with the guest house.
What's the anticipated square footage of each of the 7 apartments?
Oh, shoot, it's on the drawing.
So we got 1 unit 886, another one at 1134, 920 square feet, another one at 1014, almost 1300, and then another 2 at 1014 square feet.
And did modifying, your request to modify, did it affect the parking spaces at all, since we're going from 12 to 7?
Well, I know I'm taking one parking space, it's not lined, right? If I'm taking one away, I need someplace to put trash. It's not just bins shoved in a corner someplace. It's something that I can't stand. So it's 7 comfortably. I think it was 9 at some point. And you could squeeze 9 there for sure. I mean, but it would be 7, without many fender benders. And it has an egress from the street to the back. And actually, it's part of the property, so it's a decent driveway there.
Other questions from the board? Yeah, there is public comment as well, so. Thank you for now. You can step back into, we're gonna move to public comment on this. Just as a reminder of the rules, so we ask that all public comment be addressed to the board. Please provide your name and address. You don't have just overall Albany address, I guess. When you come up to speak, and every person from the public gets 3 minutes to speak. There's a timer, and staff will interrupt you to stop speaking if you go over the few minutes. Thank you. Michelle Burke. 3 minutes. Hello. Just give us a second of the timer. Yeah. Okay. You can go.
Okay. Hello, my name is Michelle Brock. I live at 64 Chestnut Street. And I am a 20-year resident of Center Square neighborhood and Historic Albany Foundation board member and a recently retired Center Square Association board member of 12 years. I'm here to support the variance for 281 State Street. Allowing this variance will improve the current situation and ensure the successful future of this grand, historic, and beautiful house, which has been empty for too long. I researched the history of the house along with my friend Bonnie and can tell you 281 State has a long history of being lived in and loved. Past homeowners include Albert Wing, a prominent Albany grocer, and his family, and Dr. Samuel Ward, who was President Grover Cleveland's physician and friend. The house deserves to be called a home once again. I have interacted with James Kennedy in my board of director roles at CSA and Historic Albany and as a nearby neighbor, and he has always been responsive and has followed through. He reached out to CSA and met up to discuss his plans before he even closed on the house, and the folks who toured 281 State, including CSA president, a real estate agent, an architect, a planner, all determined 7 units was a responsible number for the house. Mr. Kennedy also came to a Center Square meeting to discuss his project with neighbors and answer any questions. I believe Mr. Kennedy appreciates the history and significance of Center Square and has already made a positive impact on the neighborhood with his renovation of 2 Spring Street. And I'm looking forward to seeing his 281 State Street project come to fruition. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jesus.
David Hinchin. Sorry for butchering any names.
Hi, my name is David Hinchin. I'm an immediate abutter, the other side of the church, 261 State Street. I've been very concerned about this building for a number of years, it being vacant. It's been broken into a number of times. We've had to call the police. There's been a real concern that there would be someone starting a fire. The access point into the basement was a weak spot, and it had to be secured quite often. Before it was vacant, it was basically being operated as a rooming house. I think this use is much more preferable. Given how large the building is, over 11,000 square feet, 7 apartments, I think is very reasonable. Mr. Kennedy made a great presentation to the Center Square Neighborhood Association, really explained all the aspects of the project and the other projects he's done in Troy. The Spring Street project, I hear, is very impressive, very good quality. And it's really important to have this building occupied. The previous owner was attempting to do 10 units, and from what I could tell, was not going to do a very quality job. So this is probably the best shot we're going to see. So as a nearby neighbor, I'm very positive about it. So I guess that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here tonight who'd like to speak on this matter? No? If you
I'm
can-
not in the neighborhood.
If you can come up, please. Yeah, thank you. The meeting is recorded, so we just want to make sure everyone can hear. Yeah.
All right. My name is Jackie Powell. I be over in that area. Sometimes I have friends over there. And I was just wondering, is it gonna be fair market rent for the people? Is there gonna be like a couple of like low income apartment for some people? Just questions like
If
that.
you can just, you can keep asking your
Okay, I'm
questions, but
sorry.
just talk to the board. You get an opportunity to respond to anything afterwards. Thank you.
Okay, so those was my concern because, you know, the homeless population in Albany is out of control. And I was just wondering if it's, you know, one or two apartment would be available, like for maybe one of the veterans or a low income person that's trying to get on their feet. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Is there anyone online? No. Okay. If you don't mind, if you can come back up.
Do the written, comment for
We,
other people to hear?
we don't read them. Yeah, they're just in the record. I think we stopped reading them. Just take
so many of them, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
There is, yes, there is a comment that was submitted in writing. It's part of the public record, so anyone feel free to go read that. Thank you.
So, I mean, it's a terrible answer, but the answer is no. The numbers don't work financially. It's all, you have to model it out. It has to work. And coincidentally, I did talk to Tim Doherty at the AHA today about a property on Livingston Street, and another property on Clinton Street, and another property on Dove Street that I got the auction today. And so we have a meeting tentatively next week about low-income housing. I was homeless for a brief period in my life, so I get it. Mostly because I was a fucking idiot, to be honest with you, but sorry.
It's okay. I mean, it's a public meeting.
So
Free speech.
it's something I do care about, but the numbers have to work, you know, so I can be a crusader and lose everything and it'll go back to where it is now. Once again, I hear myself saying that, I know once again, I have vested interest and whatever, but it's just numbers don't work, unfortunately. So.
Any last questions from the board?
No.
Okay, thank you very much. Any discussion from the board or any motions?
I move to approve the request as a modification to the 1991 use variance based on all the factors that we've heard here tonight.
I would just add that it's an unlisted action, so
Oh,
just
do we
say to
need to do
do
sequel
seeker,
first?
yeah.
Do we need to do it first?
Yeah, we do it first.
I move for a negative declaration for the unlisted action under seeker.
Second,
Teresa, how do you vote?
yes.
Celeste, how do you vote?
Yes.
Martha?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, so that's on the seeker determination. Do you want to redo your variance or
Um,
your motion?
Re-raise my motion to approve the request as a modification of the 91 use variance.
Second.
Yes.
Teresa says yes. Celeste, how do you vote?
Yes.
Martha?
Yes.
Yes.
Adriana, yes. So the modification is granted. Thank you very much.
Oh, thanks guys, appreciate it.
You'll get a formal decision next week. Okay, so project area variance 2025-9. That's the property address is 30 Albany Street. The applicant is Fred Burgess for Habitat for Humanity Capital District. The zoning district is residential townhouse. The proposal is new construction with a 7-foot side yard setback where the maximum permitted is 2.5 feet. The variance request there's one, to allow for 7-foot side yard setback where the maximum permitted is 3.5 feet in the R2 zoning district. Hi. So yeah, if you can just kind of walk us through the application and through the PowerPoint.
Sure. So 30 Albany Street is the proposed site of a attached 4-bedroom, 2-bath, single-family home. The entire site, we're going to do a total of 4 identical homes, just different elevations. I've been building with Habitat in the city of Albany for the last 13 years, and I always look at what other people do. And in one instance, when we were building out Sheridan Hollow, because of setback rules, the contractor got too close to an existing home, older home. A number of things happened, and it was a winter, thawed out. Next, you know, they had to tear the house down because the foundation crumbled. So that left an impression in my mind. So I always try to, when dealing in tight spaces, I always try to give ourselves as much distance from an existing foundation as possible. 3.5. When digging a foundation, you need 3 feet, a 3-foot over dig. So that means only a half of, 6 inches would be protecting the existing home. So I think 7 feet would allow us to safely dig and preserve primarily the existing foundation. So that's the only reason for this request. The neighborhood, Albany Street, Mohawk Street, and everything in that area, there are a number of homes that have larger side yards. Some of them due to vacant homes that were demolished. People use them as side yards. So this doesn't affect the character in any way. It's actually we're adding to the character of the neighborhood with the 4 homes that we're bringing in. Alternatives, there really wasn't, to be honest with you. Just because, again, we're really it's more of a safety thing for both during construction and during the construction process. So we really would like to have at least another 3.5 feet in order to be able to safely construct the foundations. I think I mentioned a little bit about this, about the area. Again, there are multiple properties that have larger side yards, again, due to vacant properties that were once demolished, or honestly, some of them I'm not sure how it happened, but maybe this requirement was dated, and some of the homes that have larger side yards predate that. So, but this doesn't affect the look and feel and character of the neighborhood. No impact on the environment whatsoever. We use good construction practices, so yeah, we have great oversight on site, so it's not an issue at all. And,
It's usually a self-created difficulty.
yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
Yeah, I have a few. Hi, how are you?
Hello.
I just want to be clear because it makes a lot of sense to me, but I just want to make sure I'm understanding it correctly. So we're looking at 4 lots, and ultimately the 7 feet will really only be on the one single lot, but it's made to accommodate the construction of the 4 adjacent, or
Correct.
the total of the 4.
The total of the 4, yes.
And you mentioned really quickly that the main use or the main purpose is for safety during construction and the building process. What will the space look like after construction is over?
We'll most likely put a fence there, so you probably won't even see it.
And this is more curiosity, all 4 lots will be owned by Habitat or the land bank?
They're currently owned by the land bank. We're in partnership with Habitat, but they'll be sold to individual homeowners. upon
Through
completion.
Habitat or Land
Through
Bank?
Habitat,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
Sure.
So through the photos, and can you just
I'm
jump
sorry?
back, through the photos, can you jump between this and like the maps and stuff? Can you just explain exactly, okay, so looking at this, 1, 2, 3, those are the 4 lots?
Well, we should
Wait,
probably look at
from the
the
corner.
site map.
Here.
If we look at the site map, I could probably
Oh, the
explain it
white
just a little
line
bit better.
is the,
Yeah.
So the shaded area is the house. The unshaded area to the right is the proposed space. And if you show the picture view again. The ground level. Okay, so where the trash cans are, basically, we would be 7 feet from that.
and so that's to protect the house that's on the left.
Correct.
That's separately owned and has nothing to do with this project.
Correct.
But then when it's done, it'll be like a little side yard with like.
There'll be a
fence.
side yard with a fence, yes.
Yeah, just to be clear, that where the red outline is, that's the entirety of
The lot.
the
The lot.
lot, not 7 feet.
Right.
I have a question. So does this encroach on the property that's vacant, that it's adjacent to our right, looking at it this way? I mean, as in like you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. So are you going to diminish the value of the immediate parcel adjacent to it? Like, will it be buildable if you're gonna make it thinner? Like, what are we gonna do with that other adjacent property?
Which one, the existing home?
No, the one to the right, when you look at it at the
Oh,
ground
no,
level?
we're building on all
All
4
four,
of the
just so
lots.
you're not gonna
Yeah.
like, okay, so it's not gonna be squeezed and you
Oh,
have this
no,
weird
no.
vacant space.
No,
It's
Okay,
almost like
no.
7 feet, it's accounting for the whole.
Right.
great. Okay.
All 4 houses being built the same width, to the point you're making kind of.
Yeah,
right? Like,
they're exactly the same width,
the houses.
yes.
So that we're not left with any
Weird
odd,
open
weird
space.
spaces
No,
just sitting there,
no.
people dump their trash, like just as a planner, like just thinking about it's usable space, it's all being
Right.
somewhat equally distributed,
Right,
that,
right.
you know, there's gonna have good egress, good access, decent setback, which it appears it does from
Yeah,
from the site plans.
absolutely. And the biggest thing,
All right.
and you mentioned the key word there, trash. That's always one of the things that we've done in our designs is right on the stoop, we create a little closet before you get into the front door. And sometimes when we're tight, when we don't have side yards, we create a trash closet, so that way it's not visible. Large enough for recyclables and regular trash. In this instance, once we have the side yards and we put a fence behind it, perfect location for the homeowner not to have to go up and down the stairs with the trash cans. They're just stored right behind the fence.
Okay.
So, and it's the same thing on all 4 homes.
That's a great design.
Each house is on its own specific lot.
Yes.
So how is it possible that this house is not smaller than the others? Like,
Math.
are the other houses not the full width of the lot?
It's just a map. We had to subdivide, we subdivided the lots to accommodate the homes.
Oh.
So when you do the math, it just so happened to work out that way. So we have a set number of, or set design, with designs for various homes. So once we sort of like, it's like a puzzle. We put it together and we're like, oh, we've got 3.5 left. And that's why we're here.
So to kind of answer that, the part of the requirements in this district, there's different dimensional standard requirements, setbacks. So Red and Habitat have been very responsive to some of the comments we had from the initial submission, such as they had to bring some of the buildings up or to the side along Pearl. That also created then more distance stacked somewhere else. So it's kind of trading. Initially, it might have been several more variances, including like a use variance based on some of the other definitions. By doing it this way, they kind of eliminated, I think, 4 other variances, including a use variance, but they still have that remaining gap in between.
And
Yeah, our
on
initial
this-
submission had 2 home designs. So we had a 3-bedroom adjacent to a 4-bedroom. But that would create that situation that you mentioned, an odd-sized lot. So,
Unusable, like
an
nothing's not
unusable
wide
lot,
enough
I
to
think
put
it was
something in
like,
there.
maybe 16 feet wide. So
Yeah.
we just changed up our unit mix and we're able to make it work.
And so just so I fully understand on this site plan, is there a space, like the two houses on the left are share a wall, but then there's a space between house number
On the
2 and
left,
house
right,
3?
Right, so there's, next to to the left of the shaded, property, that's another house. Then there's a 3.5-foot gap to the property line, then another 3.5-foot gap to the house. So we're meeting the site setback requirements on each home.
Oh, thank you.
So go through here, so that's why they meet the requirement there is both the use and the setbacks. And then they're moving it here, so that these are both 3.5 combined, and then this would have it right down.
Okay, thank you.
So it's 3.5 in between
Each.
those.
Yes,
The two in the
3.5 is
middle, yes.
setback, so these both meet it, because it's 3.5 to the property line.
But it's 7 feet total.
It's a standard.
It's 7 feet.
On this
Okay.
side,
Right.
this is 7 feet
Yes,
total,
yeah.
but it's
Right.
3.5
But it's for each house.
to the property line for each, yeah.
It's a- it's-
So in your example earlier, where you said that a house needed to be demolished due to being too close to another home, you said something happened with the foundation.
Yes.
Do you recall what the side yard setback was in that situation?
I think it's in a townhouse neighborhood on Sheridan Ave, so I believe it might have been 3.5 as well.
Because I'm wondering if there is an issue in terms of, you said that the goal was to preserve the existing foundation, and to avoid an issue like that happening, which obviously nobody wants that to happen. And I'm wondering, is 3.5 being the maximum? Is that something that you should look at in terms of like increasing that going forward at another time?
Yeah, definitely something we can take a look at. I mean, I think it's partially based on historical layout of properties. In some areas of the city, it's better suited than others. Here, there's a little more space. In other areas, your properties are very close together.
There's other factors also, the age of the home. If it's an existing home, that the foundation, it's been compromised over time, that's a higher risk. But if we were to build the same home next to a home that we built last year, we wouldn't have a problem with it at all, 'cause it's in good shape.
You have all these homes from 1890.
Yeah, no, I see those and I run.
Can I ask one more question, just
Sure.
because it came up in the last thing during public comment, so, just to answer a question that people may be having. I think I already know this, but, can you speak to when these houses are eventually built, the sort of, sellers that they'll be offered to, or the way that they would, appear on the market?
Yeah, don't quote me, I think they're sold already. Or at least 3, I know for a fact are sold. And the way we do it, we have a mailing list of people that have, reached out to Habitat for Humanity. I believe these are 80% AMI requirements, so they are on our affordable scale. Sale price, maybe 160 to they're not 170, so it's in the 160s. But yes, in terms of marketing, one of the things that we do is we open up an application period, and that's through a number of housing agencies, existing people that are on our mailing list. We send them out, and then people have a certain amount of potential purchasers have a certain amount of time to respond, a few weeks with information. And I don't think we did a lottery for this. It was first come that's approved gets to purchase them. Sure.
Just going back to kind of the 7 inches, 7 foot, not inches. That would be way too small.
Yeah, a little tight.
So I don't know if you can speak a little bit of how the 7 foot was determined. Like, I understand that you're saying the 3.5 is too tight, but then why not 5 foot or 6.5 or whatever? And like, you're talking about like how you need space for construction machinery to kind of come through and like turn around and move around. So I don't know how wide these machines are, if that was a factor. How did you determine,
How did you come up with the 7, I guess?
You know, if it was 6, I would be asking for 6 feet. You know, to be honest with you, the further the
Oh,
better.
it's because of the size of the house, that's set to 7 foot?
Right. In some instances, we've had to do this in Troy, and I think we were 5 feet. You know, our excavator gets a little anxious, you know, at that point. You know, a lot of, there's other ways to secure the foundation of an existing home, but it's costly. There's shoring. I believe there's some issues right here on Clinton Avenue. House moved an inch. It's a big deal for an inch.
Can you talk about, I guess, I think concerns or issues with, I guess, the house, that last house that's on that lot, like, if you were to, like, I guess, reasons why to not make it wider so that the variance is not needed? Is it just because to have all the houses be the same size? Is it more expensive to make the house wider?
One of the ways that we're able to remain efficient is that we have standard home designs. So we have a 21-footer, we have a 24-footer, we have a 19-footer. So every time we design a home, it's a complete re-engineering of the, you know, new architectural drawings, and it just costs more to do that. So we've determined that the majority of the lots in Albany can fit homes within, you know, majority of the lots are around 25 feet. So we base our designs on that. In some instances, we found lots that are like 20 feet or 21 feet. So we can pull things off the shelf. And that's why one of the main reasons we subdivide, we do our lot line adjustments in order to help us find a design that works, suits the area, but doesn't disrupt things too much. So we've been lucky over the last few years, haven't had to have a variance. But in this case, we don't have a house that's a foot wider or 2 feet wider in order to reduce that. Regardless, we would have to ask for a variance, because once we're within that 3.5 foot mark, it's too risky. It's way too risky. And I'd rather ask for a variance as opposed to negating it and not put a house there.
Wait, and so these are, these are the 27?
These are the 20, geez, I think they're 24s if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so, yeah. Yeah, it's 24.
Yeah, they're 24s.
And Avi, you said that there were already extensive modifications to the plan to limit the number of variants. So this, I guess, this one house could be wider a little bit wider potentially, to limit the variance to a lower level than the 7.
But then we would need multiple variances
That
to
may,
accommodate the.
I mean, potentially could have ripple effects to the rest of the project.
It's possible, it just kind of depends on the design, but essentially, starting from the property at the corner, based on them trying to limit expenses and other elements, keeping the same size buildings, that's basically the leftover that they're kind of stuck with. So if they were to shift things down a little bit, you're then asking for variances possibly between the properties. There's also requirements for the use itself in order to be classified as a townhouse, that it has to be within 4 feet of an adjacent structure. So that was part of the issue previously, whereas I believe they met that setback, but then they didn't meet the 4-foot setback, where that becomes a different type of use that's not allowed in the district.
Yeah, I think to Serena's earlier point, this is not the first time we've come upon this sort of issue, and it does seem like maybe in some of these areas, there's room to consider the setback and the impact that it has on these other issues. Because I do recall we had an issue a couple months back where somebody needed a variance to get a setback, because otherwise they would run into construction issues. So.
Yeah, I will say this is one of the more one of the more common, if not most common setbacks specifically for side yards.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? Thank you very much. If you don't mind sitting back in the public, just open it up to public comments. Thank you. Any public comments? Yes?
Yes.
Please come on.
Again, my name is Jackie Powell, and I was just wondering if they're gonna be similar to the other Habitat homes that was already built there, and also what time do y'all plan on starting, and what time will they be finished during the day, and how do they plan to direct traffic? I live on that block. So that's all I wanted to ask.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comments? If you don't mind, you can come back up.
Sure.
If you have answers to the questions that were asked.
Sure. So, in regards to, work times, just, I'd say, 7:30 or 8 to 3:30 to 4 will be our typical workday. We're expecting to start first quarter of next year. These homes will be modular construction, so it'll go by relatively quick. The majority of the disruption will probably be during the foundation phase. Well, this now that I think about it, this is going to be slightly unique just because there are power lines on Albany Street. So we'll have to bring in the homes off of Pearl Street. So we'll literally have to do one foundation at a time. So we'll do one foundation, place the home, come back and do another foundation. And so we'll do that 4 times, but that's going to go by relatively quickly. So my estimation, because of that, the entire project could probably take around 6 to 7 months to complete from start. In regards to traffic, the only time there'll be a need for traffic divergence or anything would be during the setting of the home, and that would be no more than a day, a few hours, to be honest with you. So other than that, minimal disruption.
Thank you very much.
Did I answer everything?
Yeah.
I think so.
I was just asking because there's a lot of school buses and stuff that go through the area, so I was wondering how it was gonna affect the children that be out there on the bus stop. That's all.
Yeah. So as part of the permit, it's required, like, they'll work with the traffic engineer for anything that's within like the right of way or would, disrupt traffic, anything like that. And then anything on the sidewalk, public right of way, they have to get a sidewalk barricade, so that's noted as well. In terms of hours, everything that Greg was saying would align with the code. The hours for building operations is, you're allowed to operate from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Definitely won't be here at 10.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you.
Any other points of discussion from the board or anything? A motion?
I would say that they seem to meet the character of the neighborhood prong, alternatives considered, and definitely impact on the environment. There's none, so those 3 factors are in our favor.
Is there a seeker?
It's type 2.
Thank you.
So
there's nothing on seeker.
I will move to approve area variance 2025-9.
Second. Serena, how do you vote?
Yes.
Martha?
Yes.
Celeste?
Yes.
Jaleesa?
Yes.
Adriana, yes. All in favor, the motion is granted. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, the last project for the evening is project area variance 2025-17. The property address is 581 Central Ave. It's the MUFC mixed-use form-based Central Avenue zoning district. The proposal is the construction of a 32 square foot post and panel sign with a height of 15 feet where 5 feet is the maximum height permitted in the MUFC district. Hi, good evening.
Good evening. Sam Burden with Bowler Engineering. Here on behalf of the applicant, Hospitality Syracuse, Inc. Mike McCracken here with me. He's traveled from Syracuse to be here tonight, representative of the applicant. Project 581 Central Avenue, former Walgreens site, if you remember that. Our client has recently reinvested in the property with a new Taco Bell with walk-up window as well as drive-through. There is a retail space and a retail component to it that's vacant currently. So major investment that they made in the community for this site. A part of it was with the drive-through. The drive-through component post-COVID has become such a valuable portion of any project for any quick service restaurant. So the applicant's here tonight seeking an area variance for a new post and panel sign that was previously not allowed during the time that the project was permitted and approved through the city. The code has since changed and a detached sign is now allowed. We sat with planning to talk about the applicant's proposal and the feasibility of a new post and panel sign with what's out there. It's a very unique site with the building that we took and what we were trying to do. I think that the applicant did a great job with the construction of it being so unique with having the right slip lane traveling north-ish on Central coming out of the city. You have that right slip lane that you can go into the drive-through. You have the signalized intersection with the shared parking. So that hatched area you see on the screen is actually shared parking and shared access with the church. And then you have a separate frontage on Hunter Ave off the rear. So we talked with Albany Planning just about what the potential is here and how it would, how a new post and panel could be achieved. You know, with the separate second frontage, we could have two potentially, but that's not what the applicant is looking for. They're looking to remove the existing ground sign that's out there, which is the former Walgreens sign. You can see that there's a Taco Bell emblem actually out there today that's fit within the confines of that. But it's blocked for all traffic traveling into the city on Central Avenue. The church is set very close to Central Avenue. The homes just to the south are also set very close to the road. You have a unique property line that runs on Central Avenue. You can see where the frontage becomes very shallow to very deep, and there's an extensive right-of-way. So what we're looking to do is get a new post and panel sign for the Taco Bell that would allow for traffic traveling into the city to see the Taco Bell branding and Taco Bell signage before they pass that intersection, because we know once they pass that intersection, they're not going to turn around and come back into our site. One of the biggest things that quick serve restaurants just in general, they're not a destination use. They rely on pass-by traffic. That's somebody on their lunch break saying, I want to stop and go, okay, there's a Taco Bell here. So essentially, we're looking to secure a variance for 10 feet above the allowed 5 feet for a 15-foot post and panel sign. That would include signage for the Taco Bell 4x8, and then a signage for a potential tenant. One of the things that a tenant is looking for in this type of, this unique building is some, brand recognition at the front. They're the furthest setback portion of the property. So that would definitely help with securing a tenant for that second space. And Mike can probably talk a little bit more about the success of the restaurant so far. I think that also plays into why we're here tonight. But with that, yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions, but definitely think that the granting of this variance would be definitely beneficial to the property and the long-term success of this building as a whole.
If
if you're gonna, go ahead.
Well, I could, yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Mike
sorry.
Mike McGracken from Hospitality Syracuse. I'm from Baldwinsville, New York, nearby Syracuse. We found this building. I'm also a broker for the company. I kind of have two hats. I develop the property, but I also find the property. So there was a long, extensive negotiation with Walgreens to try to get the site secured, and the landlord that owned it. It was a pretty expensive property. We did, it was a leap of faith. We were at 1010 Central. And that site was just doing marginally well, and it had some of the same problems. Unfortunately, it was set back. The trees had grown really large in front of the building, so you really couldn't see it. We went down here thinking we got all kinds of great access. We're at a traffic light. We've got access in the rear. It's got, all kinds of what we've seen as perceived benefits, but we did know that the building was set back a little bit. We knew we'd be closer to the rooftops, and today's business does do a much greater percentage of business with delivery. So as expected, we've had a lot of delivery, actually way more delivery than traditional business. But the problem is we have no traditional business. We have almost zero dine-in and very low drive-through use. So we're pretty confident that a lot of that is that the passersby are just not seeing the building till it's too late. I miss it myself, and I've been there dozens of times, and I'll drive down and I see so many churches, and I know it's after one of them, and I'll just drive right by it, and then I've got to go around the back. So, where we had the opportunity to add a sign, it has made a significant impact on the business. And we're hopeful that you could consider it for this site too. And typically, we would use a larger sign and a big pylon sign, but this, I think Sam's done a pretty good job of trying to keep that in the same character of some of the other signs that are around it, so that it wouldn't detract from the neighborhood. But the biggest thing is that we feel we're so far back that we're getting missed by all that nice traffic that's out front.
Can you show where the sign would be on this image here?
Yeah, so pretty much where pretty much where the ground sign is, it would be just slightly closer to the sidewalk still on our property, but we're still meeting the 5-foot setback requirement. And you can see it, we just have a dimension on there to the right. It's 104 feet from the edge of curb to where that, building sign would be. So think of that, traffic's actually on the other side of that, so another 24 feet beyond that to the center line. So very deep frontage, very unique parcel, something just, I think, to take into consideration.
You're still going through the fact, I have a comment, but you're still going through the factors, right?
No, that's, I don't even think I read through the.
Oh, you did, okay, go ahead.
Do you think there's 4 more factors to go through?
Gotcha. Yeah, so I think this is all part of kind of what we talked about. I think I more or less laid it all out there as part of the presentation, but yeah, quick service restaurant dependent on pass-by traffic, whether it's substantial. We did list a couple different facilities in the area that have similar signage that's already beyond what was approved. So, the precedent is there, all located within the same zone. Specifically, I think the one that's closest would be Hoffman's Car Wash next door. Unique building there, but it almost feels like the idea is that a majority of the buildings on this block of Central Avenue are close up to the road. That's why they have that 5-foot restriction, because you'd have building signage that was there. I love New York pizza, but if you look like a Burger King down the street a little bit further, they're right up on the road, but they still have a pole sign that's pretty significant. And I think
But they're in a different zoning district.
they're on the MUFC, I believe.
On Central Ave?
Yeah.
Apologies.
Oh, it's all good.
Spend a lot of time at fast food places.
No, I was thinking of that Yazie's Market case, but I'll let you continue because I think you still have a couple more.
Oh yeah, this is requested variance surrounding neighborhoods. I think the increase in height will also allow for a better sight distance, so that's one thing that we didn't talk about. So with the location of where the sign would be, we've also, with ingress and egress out of the intersection, we want to make sure that sign is up high enough so anybody maneuvering in or out of the site It doesn't impact their line of sight coming out. I think that's part of it as well. And then as for self-created, yes, it is self-created, but it would promote the overall long-term success of the business. And then I just included a couple of the different, is that the Yazzie Market, the 651 Central?
That sign is slightly different now.
That looks, it's not like that anymore?
It says Yazzies instead of
Oh.
Audible, yeah.
Oh, okay.
We did
Sounds like a
grandparents.
point of contention.
Did you speak to the character of the neighborhood? Outside of those 3 examples, because this is a more residential neighborhood, so I just want to hear a little bit about your perspective on that particular factor.
Yeah, I do think that it does fall in similar uses. I think I reference all of those commercial uses that are within the area, understanding that there is a good amount of residential uses. We don't think it would impact them. I think it would fit within the characteristic of the neighborhood. We're trying to maintain the rest of the setbacks and other requirements as part of it. It wouldn't impede pedestrian travel. I think that's.
Is it illuminated?
So it is proposed to be backlit, so none of the lights on the actual signage would be projected outwards. They essentially illuminate that black background, and I don't think that this rendering does it justice. It's actually called halo lighting. So there's like a hue on the lighting, but none of the letters have any transparency to them. It essentially lights the background to bring out the color of the white lettering. None of it has any transparency. Actually, I think it will say there will be backlit and non-translucent. Yeah, that was.
I'd love to know how bright it is. If I'm living next to that, is that gonna go into my window? Is that gonna impede my ability to sleep? Is that going to be a distraction? Is that something that's gonna devalue my property?
Yeah, I think that we still maintain the buffer of trees between the residential property and where we are, and I think it would be far enough away that I would think that it wouldn't. The other side, obviously, the institutional use, commercial across the street. There's a pretty significantly large frontage along Central Avenue that I don't think that it would impede the commercial use or the residential uses.
What are the hours of operation? Sorry. What are the hours?
Yeah, I think, Mike, are you 10 till, or?
Well, typically we are, I think we're till 1 a.m. by the drive-through, but we're closed at 10 for the dine-in business. And then on the weekends, I think it's 1 a.m. on Friday and Saturday.
Would you turn off the light when it's after at 1
We
time?
typically set them so that they go out an hour after we close. If I could speak to the halo lighting though, we installed that same sign in Malta. Malta has a pretty strict restriction on that type of stuff. And they were real happy with it in that area. And it's not real, it's very low intensity. It's very low intensity. It's just more or less a glow around the letters. It doesn't project.
When you look at site plans, there's often, not always, but there's often illumination. Like, so if there's, but not necessarily for signs, but if they're electrified, I often want to see when I look at a site plan, I want to see the illumination, like how, the patterning, how far it's going to go and what kind of impact that is.
I would think, based on just my experience of doing site photometric plans, I would think that your 1 foot candle line, the basis of what dark sky compliancy, what the guidelines are for, and based on IES files that I've worked with, this would not project beyond the property. Maybe slightly beyond the property line, but not into the right of way where it would impact traffic.
Yeah,
That's just my professional opinion.
it would be well under the 0.3 foot candle spillover. That's the max requirement under the code.
Yeah. Now, if it was a typical box sign, with the internal lighting, I could see that, but with the backlighting, it is very, very mild.
How long has the restaurant been open?
Year and a half?
Oh, yeah, between a year and a half.
And I noticed that the design is a little bit different, right? It's more residential looking, like the colors are different. Is that on purpose?
This last design set was more muted. They took away all the oranges and
Right.
and now it's more grays. And muted colors, which
Yeah.
might also have an impact on it a little bit. You know, they've done some studies on that.
And that was part of like when we sat down with Brad to talk about the reuse of this building, it's like, it's gotta fit into the neighborhood with the colors, that brick, and the actual proposed sign here, one of the things that when we sat with Avi to talk about, it's tough, actually, if you pull that picture back up, if you don't mind, please. We're gonna add a landscaping bed at the bottom of it that matches the brick on the building. So I mean, those plants look a little lackluster in there, just that rendering, but I think it's something that we can do to really bring up the actual sign and make it look more part of the development.
And we've had a couple of potential tenants, and it has come up. Dollar General was right down to the last bid on it, and then they did all their urban new builds, they completely stopped them. The shrinkage was too great. And then Dollar Tree, we went through the whole thing with Dollar Tree right down to but a few months ago, but now there's an international grocer that's very interested in it. It's 8,000 square feet. It's, you know, that kind of use, I think there's probably a demand for it in the city, and it's walkable. So it might make it more convenient for some of the residents down there.
So Mike, just to be clear, I think I'm getting a little confused. Do you work for Taco Bell or do you work for the owner of the property?
I work for both. So
Okay.
I work for the Taco Bell company, which is Hospitality Restaurant Group. I'm the director of real estate development.
I see.
And then Fairlane Drive LLC and East Huron LLC is the family that owns most of the dirt under all of them. And I'm their real estate broker.
Okay, so there's a potential for this sign to not just be for Taco Bell, that they could
Correct.
also sell the property
Well, lease
or
it.
or lease it.
Lease it, yeah, lease the 8,000 square feet next door. Yeah, we put in separate, there's separate 600 amp services. There was money invested into the building to make it usable for a second tenant. And that should help our business too, help the Taco Bell side as well, once we get some extra foot
In
traffic.
the building. Yes, there's a space for this on the sign for two sides. For the Taco Bell, and there's a white space for another tenant in the building.
Got it.
Yeah, so part of what we
Like
had,
the white.
part of what we had discussed as well is there, while technically not a corner lot, the property kind of functions as a corner lot, given the way that the vehicles enter and exit the site. There's a specific provision in the code to not have any walls, signs, other structures that are at an elevation of 3 to 6 feet, because it's very difficult to then see as you're turning. So that would kind of be the case here. So as you kind of pull a sign up, or you try to have a slightly taller sign, you then kind of come to the issue where you essentially need to go to a certain height above that, because you have to be able to see through the sign in order to see oncoming traffic or pedestrians.
So you're explaining the reason why it can't be 10, or why it can't be 6 feet. Why it may need to be this high.
Correct, yeah, because it would cause we would have concerns with vehicle and pedestrian safety because of the turning.
Can you go
Which is
back
why
to-
you typically, on this stretch, you'll see a lot of the post and panel, or you'll see a lot of signs that have a certain height, so that the lower part of it, you can actually see around.
So
So
go
the
back to
negative
the
space.
sign.
Yeah.
Correct.
So is the second piece,
There's slight elevation. I drive this twice a day, every day, and there's some slight elevation. You've got back-to-back lights between Clinton hitting Central. I mean, I live up South Main. That has an AADT, or annual average daily travel pattern, of 7,500 cars a day. This part of Central has at least 10 to 20,000 AADT. I can double check tomorrow when I'm at work, but like, this has super high traffic volumes. It's a really funky lot, not the safest in or, exiting egress. I am worried about the sightlines here, because there is a very slight increase in elevation. People live right next to here, like literally it's very residential. And then you got the church on this like little lip. And it makes me a little, I drive it every day.
So the planter box would be below that. The panels would be, I think, 4-inch metal posts. And then the first, I think if you go back to that, so 4, 5, 6, you would have 9 feet clear or 7 feet clear, which I think DOT spec is the 3.5 foot site visibility for sitting in your vehicle.
Check the HDM, the highway design manual.
Yeah, I'm almost positive that that's what it is, but the idea is to get that second panel, and that's part of the variance that we started with Avi, that we were looking for a taller sign than this with a bigger square footage. We worked with planning to come down from our original proposal to something that fits in the more into the characteristic of the neighborhood. I don't think taking it down anymore would be of benefit to the sight lines, exactly like you're saying. And I think we found that sweet spot between the two where it's functional for the long-term success of the restaurant, but also does not impact the traffic or pedestrian safety. And if you just look at that site plan as well, or our markup site plan, I think where we have it positioned is the best possible spot, because vehicles are still able to creep forward to that stop bar that's out in the right of way before they cross the crosswalk, where it would not impact our sign. I think on here it's difficult to see that you're looking at more of a top-down view, where this is a very thin sign. This is not a cabinet. This isn't a stone-based, a big cabinet up in the sky or something that you'd see. It's going to be a pretty thin structure.
Has there been any engagement with the neighborhood association or the church?
Not at this point.
How has the level of service been impacted from the traffic? Like, so what's the grade? I don't know about the grade. I don't know who owns this jurisdictional road. It probably is the city, even if it's a state road. The city owns it, and I'm just very curious how that level of service from all the cars coming in and out, how that impacts.
Has changed
traffic.
From when we've been there to
Yeah,
now?
I'm super curious. It's only been a year and a half, and we collect those every 3 years typically at DOT.
Yeah, I think that you're going from a large square footage to, you took away 8,000 square feet for a more.
Just more vehicles, more usage,
Yeah.
diminishing level of service.
I don't know.
So, just going back to the sign. Okay, so 4 livable space and 2.9. So really the lower part of the bottom sign is at about 7 feet high is what we're saying. And what were you saying, Avi, about what do we require for visual?
Not to have it obstructed between 3 and 6 feet.
And you're on a slight elevation, which if you pull up a map with topo, you'd see it.
So what does that mean? Sorry, I'm not following.
So, it might actually impact sightline because it's on a slight incline, so it's up, but you're still driving up. It's gonna impact my ability to see oncoming traffic when I'm trying to safely pull out onto Central.
You're saying it's
It
too low?
it might actually impede. Yeah, it's a little.
But so you're saying it's too high? It should be lower, because it seems
No,
like.
I'm just saying, I think that it might just, it probably should be a little bit higher, but I wouldn't personally want to live next to that.
I think that's the benefit too of having that signalized intersection, right?
You're gonna get back to back from Clinton to Central, and you got the third one on North Manning, and you have really high traffic
And
count.
so, then, can you go back to the image where we see the current sign, that's there,
It's fine as is. I mean, visually, it doesn't impede your sight line.
and so the current sign is how tall?
About 3.5 feet.
Yeah, 3.5, 4 feet, without any, you can't really see through it, but again, it's back further, but.
It's back further, but we are elevating our sign to get rid of the sight distance issue.
So the 2-foot base, if we got rid of the brick base and just had the poles, would that be better?
If we just did a landscaping
Thinking
bed.
that, or the brick base is what you're concerned that could block your eyesight?
I think it might help,
The brick part?
even if it's so low.
Because, it would
cover a car pulling out.
Yeah, and you're coming up on an incline.
Or it could, right?
It's a really
Because-
tricky, and I wish I'd pulled the clear crash database.
Right, because we don't have
stats behind this section.
anything like in writing with supporting that, right? I'm just saying in general, I think you're raising some very valid concerns, but we don't have that concretely, right? It's just kind of
No, but
theory.
what you're saying is all stuff that we have to look into when we're
Yeah,
proposing.
This is what I do every day.
Yeah,
So
we
I'm like,
can't-
yeah, like,
we don't
this is
wanna
tricky.
We don't wanna create an obstacle or an impediment on an existing intersection that has existing traffic patterns with a high volume. We wanna make sure that we're meeting all site distance requirements. And our thought of lifting that sign up for that, if that sign was any closer to Central Ave or where we had it, I get what you're saying, where that could definitely be a concern because it's a cabinet, it's blocking site distances, but lifting that up, if it's that stone base on the bottom, we could probably just do the landscaping bed around the bottom of it. I don't know if that's really gonna impact significantly, but if it's something that the board would consider as a mitigation, I think.
What's the box
have any issue.
behind there's like a beige box?
That's there's a large water line that runs through the sidewalk, right there where that hydrant is. And that's actually our water service to our building.
That's a heated cabinet.
That's a heated water meter cabinet.
So that's still there.
That's not
And
going
it's not-
anywhere.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
because we don't want any
Yeah,
water.
you can see it here on this view, but you can see it on the other.
Yeah, that was required by the water department as part of our development because of the two services having to split internally.
How's the other one?
Google just hasn't gotten around to updating all the these areas.
Okay, can we go back to this view of the sign, the proposed sign? So, and Celeste, like, I feel like the brick stuff planter, I guess, do you know how tall that is?
2 feet.
2 feet.
It's pretty minimal, but
So that's like under the 3 feet, but you're saying because of the elevation, it might be close to the 3 feet. But I feel like, I mean, I guess its intent, I don't know if it actually does it, but its intent is to make the whole thing look nicer and, you know, like more, yeah, nicer for the character of the neighborhood and for the residential.
Could they do a 1 foot course and then a top stone, or would that look ridiculous with the height?
We kind of want, yeah, I think the aesthetics was what we had in mind, and then being able to put the address on it, believe it or not, is an important thing, is to be able to see where 581 is. One other thing, typically we'll have a directional sign right by the road. So if you're coming down the road and you're traveling, at the rate of traffic, you get an eyeball of where the Taco Bell is, and you can start to slow down and make your lane change. This particular site, we have nothing out near the road at all, so you could be coming down Central, heading south, or whatever that is, heading east, and you might have to really slam the brakes on if you think you want to make that turn, because you don't have a chance of that. That other one is a one-way in.
Yeah, that was part of the planning process too that we looked at when we worked with traffic is, we really had to keep what we were proposing away from the right of way. And keep it out within the confines of our site. So we didn't make any modifications to the existing driveways, besides the pavement up to the property line limits.
Right, does it say school on top of photo enforced? So this
Is
is
that
school.
from Montessori?
School zone.
no,
correct?
that's part of that Harvest City Church. There's an attached school to that, so there's a lot of little kids running
So
around
is
there.
there a slower speed required in this area because of the school?
Yep, it's 20.
Alright. So I imagine that might weigh into, the safety of the area. The cars should be going slower. I know that that's not always the case. I live right by a school zone as well. So that might weigh in as well, because are the cars going slower when they pass by the Taco Bell?
Yeah, it could be that they are, at least during school hours, and it's.
Pretty late though, it goes to 7 p.m. Not
Yeah.
everybody knows that.
6 p.m. Starts at 7 in the morning.
Without a
Well, around me it
variance,
goes to 7. It absolutely, if I'm right on Western, I'm by Eagle Point, it goes, yeah.
could you
I don't know
tell
about
us a
here, though.
little bit, I don't know if you've thought about this, I guess, but what would signage look like without a variance?
What would signage look like without a variance? It would be, a a 5-foot tall post and panel sign, it wouldn't be practical. We would have nothing but sight distance issues. It would be pushed all the way to a far corner. We'd be in the same position that, we were in now. Where, even going back to the ground sign, actually, I'm not 100% sure under the new code if they're even allowed in this area or
what?
For a ground sign, a freestanding, like a monument style sign.
Yeah.
But I think it's the same size and same scope. That's the goal with trying to play into the success of the business, is getting that sign up high for people mainly traveling into the city as well as coming out, to be able to make that decision before they hit the intersection, and give the brand some visibility as you approach because of just the uniqueness of the site. And then, oh God, I don't have anything else.
Avi, you were planning, I have another question. So the city obviously updated recently, passed a new sign ordinance that was in spring, summer of this year?
Recently, yeah.
This year, sometime this year, the city went back again over the sign rules, which I assume included basically this. The planning department is recommending approving this variance. I'm just kind of curious how that, how you take, I guess what's the reasoning here from the city's planning department on, the city just reconsidered all these rules and all these requirements when it comes to sign. And I'll shut up, but and let you tell us what the reasons are, but is it this site is designed so specifically kind of thing? Yeah.
Yeah, so, if you could go back to the map image, I guess. Yeah, so sites, if you look back, yeah, so previously, so we had issued a variance before the new sign code for the Yazie's Market. I think that might be, it's probably close to about a 15-foot sign, but part of that they also needed was that the sign type wasn't allowed. So with that in mind, we wanted to allow for buildings like this that are set back in certain districts, including this one, to be able to have a freestanding sign. So that's part of it, definitely acknowledging that businesses that are set back from the road are at a disadvantage because their wall signs just typically aren't as effective. In terms of the height, I think that's just something there's no perfect measurement, so we're kind of trying out different elements. MUFC is a little bit more residential, but it's still highly commercial. It's kind of just a mix. The hard part is there are different sections of Central that fall into the MUFC that are a little bit different from each other, but we didn't want to carve out the sign code into tiny little segments everywhere because it gets very confusing. But I think overall, we kind of acknowledge the fact that the amended sign code isn't going to solve all issues for every property. There'll still be unique circumstances. I think in this case, we generally felt that with our recommendation that given where the building is on the site, that a taller sign does make sense. It's limited in terms of how close it can be to the roadway. And the type of sign with having the post panel having that transparency would make it safer. Typically what we've seen at other locations, and not aware of traffic incidents or anything like that as a direct cause to them, but hope that somewhat answers it. Yeah, there's not really we tried to look at prior cases where there were variances, what kind of was the underlying issue, and then tried to solve it that way.
And just, can we go back to what's currently there? Are there, I guess, concerns? I guess I'm trying to figure out if any kind of signage that would be according to code, there are concerns that kind of the concern Celeste raised of line of sight, and so safety concerns with any signs that are up to the, like basically, if we don't grant a variance and keep things, you know, and the property is required to keep signs at 5 feet or under, is that really actually creating kind of a more dangerous visibility issue than granting this variance? Is my question, I guess. I'm curious what you think
From
about that.
staff perspective would be yes. I think having a sign that's at like the 5 feet would be more dangerous just because it's more likely to block your actual vision. I mean, even if you look at where the car is kind of pulling out from, visualize where that sign is, if that sign's
We're talking about a
only,
5-foot freestanding sign, not a monument sign.
um,
Are we suggesting the
Well,
currently existing
I guess-
monument sign creates a sightline issue?
so if we're talking about a freestanding sign, I mean, if you had a post and panel, I think it would still be, I don't think realistically you would put a post and panel that low. It's not something we typically see. It wouldn't really solve the sightline issues if you did that. But if you even just imagine pulling that sign forward a little bit, it would make it very difficult or more difficult for the car to.
And that would be allowable,
see.
correct? Because
Yeah, it
it's
would
a 5-foot post and
Yeah.
panel sign that we could have 5 feet off of the property line, or a ground sign, a monument sign, that's essentially 5 to 10 feet closer. So I think that's where we're trying to get with the additional height, that would be the safest condition.
Yeah, the other element too is they're trying to provide signage for potentially two tenants. They'd only be allowed the one freestanding sign really, so you then come to the issue of if it's too low or can't really accommodate the second sign, then like where are you gonna put that other one? So by having it a little bit taller, you can fit it. The sign measurements, like the square footage that they're proposing, do meet the requirements, so that part's okay.
Wait, so circling back, are we saying what's currently there? So the current sign is a monument sign. It is, we said it's about 3.5, so that is allowed to go up to 5 feet?
Yeah, and so the code doesn't.
And it could be anywhere on the property, so it could be moved like closer.
Very close to the center.
Yeah, it would, the setback would be the same, that we, under the definitions, the regulations in terms of like height and everything, we don't distinguish between like a monument versus post and
It's the
panel. It's, yeah, if it's a detached sign, it's all the same requirements.
Thank you for clarifying. And so I don't know, Celeste, going back to your security and your DOT experience, I guess I'm curious how you think about that a little bit, about like how, I guess whether postal panel or monument, right, like the code currently allows them a 5-foot sign. It sounds to me like what you were saying, the concerns you were having, is that what exists here and what they would be allowed to do on their own, you see as potentially more dangerous than allowing this?
It's about
or no?
sightline and safety, you know. It's a tricky intersection, extremely high traffic,
The school next door.
with a school directly adjacent, and then literally a whole line of townhouses to the other side. So it's already, again, naturally high volume, mixed use, which is great. You know, good idea for a reuse on a tricky lot. And I drive through this every day, twice a day, and it's, you know, I also wonder just about the visual and the distractibility when you're trying to drive and you're trying to navigate. Let's say you're not really used to this intersection, and you know you're from Baldwinsville and you're not used to it, and you're like trying, oh, there's Taco Bell, like, and then pulling a UE, which people do all the time on Central, and just you know, just the trying to pay attention. There's a lot already going on in this intersection. Funky egresses, high
So,
traffic, a lot
I'm
of
still
lights.
not clear on whether you think,
Sightlines,
you think what the code allows is unsafe,
to an extent, yes.
and that the requested variance, although maybe ugly, makes it more safe, maybe.
I think it's, I mean, I would prefer it as is.
Sorry
but it
for
is
the ugly, I
setback.
know you guys try and make it pretty and stuff all
Yeah,
that,
good.
but like,
Understood.
commercial signs are just generally ugly.
It's not, nothing
to-
against you, sorry.
No, well, to the point of the other sign, we didn't have to spend a lot of money to change that panel, and I said, well, before we can figure this out, let's just change the panel at $600, and we'll have something there, but it's really insignificant, and we knew we would come back and try to do something, you know, if it meant moving it to the 5-foot setback and using a 5-foot sign, we would do the best we could with that. But we did talk about all of this with the sightlines, and that was the whole topic of conversation, to be able to not block, you know, the view. And in Malta, for instance, it is a posted panel sign, and it is on the ground, and it's right out on the sidewalk.
They also have a form-based code, so they have really, really strict zoning. I mean, they're like a kind of a gold standard for form-based code.
Yeah, but that particular sign might actually be allowable with your code, and that would sit just a little bit above the ground, and there's no vision through it. It's completely, you know, this one allows you to at least see over that little, and we could take the brick out. I just thought it aesthetically, it added to it, make it match the building. And
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to sightline, it comes down to safety, it comes down to trying to avoid accidents at the end of the day. Like, that's a huge push right now federally, and with the New York State, safety.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions from the board?
Not so much a comment or a question, just appreciate the application and the presentation. Big fan of Taco Bell, spend a lot of time there. I don't have a problem with the sign. But I'll note, and I've been pretty consistent on this, I'm fairly certain I voted no on the Yazie's Market sign, that I think, you know, there's an issue, I have an issue with the change to the character of the neighborhood. While this may be within the proper zoning district, I think this is a different end of Central Avenue than some of the other examples. I also think there are a myriad of alternatives that would not require a variance of this sort, 3 times the permitted height for the district. I think the conversation about sightlines, perfectly reasonable conversation to be had, probably a conversation for the planning board and engineering to be talking about generally about sightlines, which to me is a little bit outside of whether or not we should grant this variance. I find the substantiality, significant, and while I appreciate the presentation, I find this, even though it's not obviously a singular reason to deny, I find this to be fully self-created, especially in light of the alternatives. And so, you know, appreciate you guys, but I will be voting no, regardless of what motion. We're voting to deny.
Before I guess we get to all this, there's no one else in the room, but there's no one online. I don't have public comment, thank you. Hi, thank you, Teresa, for your
Full-on reasoning. Anything else at this point?
Let me just say the staff notes don't present or don't state that there would be this issue, this danger issue, or an issue with safety, I should say a safety issue, based on the reasoning that we heard here today. And I know that you all have worked very closely with planning on coming up with this proposal. You've done it before in a different city. You were saying Malta as well. I think that the slower driving speed helps. The fact that it's a signalized intersection. I think that you can't, in my view, you can't see the sign at 5 feet. And that could cause more of a safety issue based on how low the sign is. And I think a higher sign would actually make it easier and safer for drivers. I traverse that Central Avenue very often as well. And I don't have the same concerns that Celeste has when it comes to the site. Also, we don't have any numbers specifically speaking to that issue. I don't know if it would be helpful to get something, you know, that's more concretely discusses whether or not the sightline issue is as much of a safety issue. But based on what we have tonight, I would vote yes.
Is there any interest in anyone making a motion?
I mean, just based on what we're hearing, I would request that if we could take a straw poll this and maybe potentially just before a motion is had, because if that's the case, we'd rather table the application than have a formal vote and be denied. And I mean, if it came down to it, Mike, I think that we would prefer the sign in the position where it is, but I think to your point, we could put the sign right up on the road and put it right where it could be of concern. We're trying to mitigate the sightline issues and trying to mitigate any safety issues. Us being the engineer and Mike being the owner applicant are representative of the two. Nobody wants to put their names on anything that is associated with a safety concern. As an engineer, we're ethically bound to not doing that. I think that if we could potentially have that straw poll, we may be able to talk about sliding that sign back a foot, maybe, if possible, or something that would, in between. But, you know, this is a very important part of a quick serve restaurant's business, and we need to find something. If it's not this and we have to work within the confines of the code, I don't think it's going to be as safe as what we're proposing tonight.
So I feel like I guess you're kind of saying, can we get a sense of where the vote is going? And if it's going towards a no, can we table so you can revisit? I guess I don't even know procedurally if we can do that. I mean, it's an open meeting, I guess we could. That doesn't bound anyone to any vote.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
we
Serena
usually
can say
vote
no in
no,
a second if she
Serena's
wants
voting
to.
yes.
Julius can say yes.
So the fact that the existing code would be a safety concern, does this abrogate the self-created difficulty, that it's not a self-created difficulty if it's?
The reverse.
Well, I think to Serena's point, we don't know that that's, I appreciate Celeste's particular and very relevant experience. Apologies, I touched you. But I take the position that I took when I made my statement, which I don't know that that's necessarily even relevant for this body to be considering. Well, I think it's certainly part of the conversation. I personally, procedurally, don't see it as a reason to hold off on a vote. It's certainly something that, now that we've talked about it, now I'm like interested in hearing what planning and engineering has to say as a general matter about whether or not their existing sign ordinance, which was just changed, sorry, creates this sort of tricky safety versus zoning problem. Yeah. But I think that's honestly, because you just said straw poll, that's kind of a straw man argument.
I have numerous issues with this, not just beyond safety. I would want to sit next to this.
Yeah, I mean, I think the zoning code was just changed, and I understand the safety concerns, but I guess I am not sure that a sign that meets zoning requirement can be figured out that would still be safe. So I guess I think to be on the no side, to me.
If we are tabling, it would be helpful to get input from the church and from UWANA, which is the Upper Washington Ave Neighborhood Association. I think it's their jurisdiction.
And yeah, I guess maybe revisiting with the city staff and traffic engineering.
I'd love to hear from the people who would live directly next to the sign, personally.
Okay, so we're tabling?
Yeah.
Is that what's happening?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that.
I mean, they're notified, I hear you, like I would assume that they're receiving a postcard for living within a certain number of feet.
Yeah,
So-
no, they were notified as part of this, yeah.
I move that we table, project 2025-17.
I'll second.
Julie said we vote on tabling.
No.
Okay. So let's have to vote on tabling.
No.
On tabling.
Oh, yes, tabling's fine, yeah, tabling's fine, yep, go for it, it's fine. I'm voting like no on this, but yeah.
Yes.
I'll vote yes on
Let's table it.
Find something on the site and otherwise.
Thank you all, appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Ready to go?
Oh,
we need to adjourn the meeting and need a motion
move to
for that,
adjourn.
please.
Second.
Everyone
Yes.
in favor?
Yes.
Thank you. Meeting is over.
Thank you.
Avi, do you try these? Because I write a lot of notes.
Oh, yeah, I mean, we'll throw them out. Okay. Yeah, if you want to stay on the table, that's fine.
Don't think